I think about things now, right? So bringing it forward to now for me, just a very quick anecdote. I've got 2 kids now. We were joking about how long it's been. I've got a small family, and that's a huge game changer. And suddenly you have no time. The whole idea of optimizing anything just goes out the window, right? You can't listen to Tim Ferriss anymore, or anyone who doesn't have kids who has a podcast and talks about productivity is no longer relevant. It's and when I had my first kid and we were in COVID, I put on weight just like a lot of people did. I probably put on 20 pounds. And then over the last year or so, I've just shaved all of that off, maybe over the last year and a half, effortlessly. And that's just through implementing all the stuff that you and I know and I've learned from yourself, and just really focusing on eating the proteins and the foods that I enjoy, that I know to be good. So I always front load the day with a lot of protein. And what I've noticed, Ted, and I'm curious what you think about this, my evening habits aren't great, right? But I'm working out twice a week. So I'm doing high intensity training. I'm working out pretty hard. I'm moving a lot. I'm walking the dog. I eat really well, probably like the first 2 meals of the day, high protein, steak and eggs, or some kind of meat and eggs and vegetables and stuff. But then when I come home after I pick my son up from daycare, my willpower is like bottomed out, and whatever the missus is putting on that table is going in my mouth, whatever, regardless of what it is. And quite often, almost on a daily basis, I will like have, refined, high glycemic index type food. And I seem to quote unquote get away with it. I'm pretty good shape. I'm lean, but it does affect sleep and energy. And I do feel it the next day. So I know it's not optimal from that perspective. There's no such thing as a free lunch here, right? I am maintaining good body composition, but I'm probably doing a little bit of damage to myself. Is that true? And what's your take on that?
No, I don't think that's true. Okay. I honestly think that if you're active and you're doing, let's say you're doing at least a half an hour of moderate to vigorous cardio a day, and you're, if your activity is high enough that you're burning at least, 1.5 your basal metabolic rate per day, so you're, burning some extra calories, I firmly believe that at least 10%, if not 20% of your diet could just be pure abject garbage, and you're going to have no problems disposing of those calories. And I no longer
don't think it has any impact on health span or longevity.
I really don't believe that. No. So I've really gone from thinking some foods were clean and some were dirty and some were good and some were evil and some were just inherently making you healthy and inherently making you sick. I just don't buy that anymore. Like, all of these are literally just broken down into the same 20 amino acids and the same fatty acids and the same simple sugars. Like, you basically have the same components. You're really just looking at a spectrum of satiety per calorie, where something that's very high in protein and fiber and very low energy density and very low carb and low fat at the same time, you're pretty much not going to overeat that, versus something that's just pure sugar and fat like ice cream. You're going to way overeat that because of the palatability and the hedonic factor and the energy density and the bliss point and all of these other reasons. But it's not inherently harmful by itself. It's literally going to be just broken down into the same glucose and fatty acids that your steak and salad is. Just the quantities and the ratios are affecting mostly satiety hormone signaling in different ways. But as long as you have plenty of storage space for those incoming energy macronutrients, I'm not convinced it's going to do anything bad to you. And if you do some huge glycogen depleting workout and then just eat like donuts or ice cream, I literally don't think that's harmful or damaging. I don't buy into the seed oil terror that everyone has, that linoleic acid is, breaking your mitochondria or any this. There is really no signal to support this in the medical literature. So I don't feel that any of these foods are inherently, damaging or screwing up your health span or really doing much of anything in and of themselves. It's the energy toxicity setting that you see the real problems. You know what I mean? Like, if all of your fat cells are already full and all of your muscles are already full of intramuscular triglycerides and glycogen, and then you eat a whole bunch of extra calories on top of that that have no place to go. You have huge problems with excess energies in the bloodstream that have no place to go. You have high triglycerides and high blood sugar, and your insulin's high all the time, and your body's trying to shove fat places it doesn't belong. And then you're going to get tons of inflammation because these overfilled fat cells are highly inflammatory, and you're going to get all kinds of basically all the whole spectrum of metabolic syndrome and all the chronic diseases that are associated with that, not necessarily from insulin itself, which is just a signpost that you're energy toxic, but really from the energy toxicity of eating more energy than you can store, essentially, big picture. So as long as you're way below your personal fat threshold and you have tons of room to dispose of incoming energy, I think you can eat donuts and garbage. And I don't think that does anything bad to you. And I think someone who's active and exercising gets away with a lot more of that. If you're super sedentary, you can't get away with as much of that without problems. But yeah, no, I don't think you're doing anything bad to yourself. And also I have a lot of patients who are in the same boat as you. They're like, I have control over what I eat for breakfast and lunch, but then like dinners with the family. And honestly, as long as you're front loading a lot of protein and fiber and eating this very high satiety per calorie, high nutrient density, low energy density stuff earlier, you can probably get away with this meal of just whatever you want and eating a certain amount of just even empty calories, and you're going to be fine. So I have no problem with what you're doing. I think it's great. I don't think you're doing anything bad to yourself, as long as you're lean enough to be way under your personal fat threshold and not have any of these energy toxicities or insulin resistance.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a mystery to me, because I've been like, how come I've been able to stay so lean right now? Because I'm like, it hits 5 p.m. We're having dinner. Dinner's fine. Dinner's typically high protein still and low energy density, relatively low energy density. But then there's a pastry there. I'm rooting around for some kind of sugar hit, so I'm looking in the fridge and I'm taking the kids' yogurts, which aren't even for me, right, and eating those. It's that kind of thing. So yeah, I have. It makes total sense what you're saying, but I have been surprised that I've been able to retain a certain level of leanness throughout all of this, or at least in the last 6 months to a year or so. And yeah, it's just, I just didn't think that would be that possible.